Hi. So, in today's video, I'll be telling you about a few more places that I have visited, and not always it went any better when it comes to getting the job, but they seem to be a little bit symbolic too. Like when I think of it now from the perspective of the time, I will tell you about Colin Rose School, English school, and Moose, which is a very interesting. It's a very interesting name of the school, which tells you sheep, you moose, right. Um, in what else? Progress new, and it's pretty much it for today. Uh, yeah, and a few references to people that I have met when going to those places. But I will start with Colin Rose because as I look at it now and I see the name Colin Rose, and I had a friend Colin, and then in the very first school when I taught children, I had particular book Bag's World where the main character was Colin the caterpillar. And yesterday I told you a little bit already about Rose and about references with uh, references of my Polish native language to expressions connected with sex, like dymać, ruchać, przelecieć kogoś. They all include the idea of the air in them, and they all speak about sex, emphasizing that it's something irrelevant, something quick, something not important. They are very colloquial, and they are very a little, well, the degree of irrespectful. Well, they may be funny to joke about, to talk about, but the longer I think, like, just like I heard Tony Robbins saying, talking about lies, the longer you repeat and the longer you use the given words, the more they somehow become your reality. So I have just incorporated what I have just heard. Okay. Mm. So therefore, those expressions and that connection to Rose, as women in the Netherlands stand precisely behind the windows, just like flowers in every house out there, probably in every country out there, stands on the windowsill. This is where we typically keep them, and so in that sense, they can be seen from the inside and the outside, and you can see these women, uh, in a sense, from the inside and outside, right? So, the idea of Rose being depicted closed in the glass is depicted in Bella and the Beast, in a very classical and known by everyone tale and loved by everybody tale. But it also comes back in, The Little Prince, where there's this relationship between the prince and the rose, and it also comes back in Oscar and the Lady in Pink. And then when you look at the Moulin Rouge song, then you see all those references with pink together mixed. With women who sing that song also have very symbolic names. So there's the singer called Pink, and we have yet another link to Oscar and Lady in Pink, where in that book also their relationship with Rose is discussed. So therefore, when going once again through the content on my own book, and I saw Colin Rose, where that was the interview where I didn't get the job, but I saw Colin Rose, and I had myself a friend whose name is Colin, and I told him about Colin the caterpillar because I knew Colin. From the book I taught, and then was the quick association. But in Moulin Rouge, there is a singer called Maya. In Maya, is speaks about utopia, something about illusion. That's the meaning of Maya. And we had the bee called Maya, and that was a fairy tale aired on TV long ago, you know. So, the linkages with Madeleine, where there's in the very first book by Ludwig Billemel, Madeleine, we have a story about removal of the appendix, which speaks precisely in my language. It translates to appendix, includes the word worms. So, and it is related with your worms balance in your body, the good bacteria balance in your body, right? And therefore, I see a very strong connection within Gucho, Maya and Gucho bees, which are said to fly from the flower to flower and set their eggs and grow new babies. And so that idea is reflected in the language too, with latać, skwiatka na kwiatek, skakać from skakać z kwiatka na kwiatek, so jump from a flower to flower, which reflects is also reflected in the nature, reflected in the way insects reproduce. And when we think of that, they have a lot to do with flowers, and the flower is the symbolism of women, and all the processes where we go through with aging. Because for us, for women, sometimes there was a moment in my life that was a big issue. Okay, so just now I have came across it, and that's the book. And these are the names of the bags. There's Lucy and there is Colleen, and I know Lucy. There's Lucy in my family, Lucina, and I don't think it's accidental. I don't think the gypsy have accidental names, and therefore I tell you there is Lucina. And the moon is in the river. When you think about the animals that I had to teach from these books, they are animals that live on the farm, and animals that live on the farm, when I link it strongly with Kokomo. So that's the name of the street club, where you actually have the sounds like ko, ko, and mo, that could be moo for a cow. And the reason why I link it is because when you go to the chicken house, it actually stinks. And we learn to talk about our body parts and think about our body parts as stinky. Because, I not once had an idea I stunk, an impression that I stunk. And when it comes to these guys, well, I bought a bunny myself, and my cousin had lots of hamsters, and they had a cat too, and I had a cat because in the song Moulin Rouge, they sing Kichi Kichi Yaya, and there's strong emphasis on cats. And Christina Aguilera, when you look at her, she basically looks like a cat in that video clip. For me, she does. So all the animals I found here, I just had them. I had a guinea pig. My cousin had a guinea pig, and I didn't have myself a turtle, but my friend that I would visit sometimes, she had a turtle. So yeah, and we had a dog. So I pretty much was familiar with each and every one of these animals. So I think that hamster is just a nice representation of a mouse. And that, and I don't know, I'm not sure how the crocodile is mixed in it all, but I think it somehow is connected. I just need to sit to it and put it all together in one more comprehensive and easy to digest way. So therefore, when I see Colleen, the name of the school, Colleen, and I think of Colleen the caterpillar and the physical Colleen that was around in my environment. In the name Rose, it's a rose, but you read it Rose, but then I think that connection of these two words is totally not accidental. And when I was on the interview to get that job, I was wearing a blouse that was a little bit inappropriate. And what does that mean? I was asked to show one activity very quickly, and I could choose flashcards, and I have chosen somehow mysteriously flashcards connected with clothes. So I just chose quickly my best game ever, and to do that game we had to stand up, and yeah, we had to stand up and we had to name, you're wearing this, 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 this. We had to hide one element. It could be an earring, it could be a belt, it could be your sock, your shoe, your hair grip. And then once you've hidden it, then you stand right back in front of your partner and say, you are wearing this, 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 and this, but you are not wearing a watch. Huh? So you had to pay attention and see what was missing, right? Okay, so once doing that, I had to, stand back to that lady when I was hiding one thing. And then I was wearing such a blouse that this is the back of my blouse. And you could see, my body over here. And, that was sort of an accidental choice. Like the the shirt was very elegant on the front part, but on the back it was a little bit too revealing, which was I loved that shirt, but I used to wear always a t-shirt underneath because I didn't like to have that much body out, but it was so hot that day and I could not find anything better. So for me it was like, okay, I came around and now I'm just looking back at all my memories and finding some you know a lot of symbolism also in those situations and a lot of information in those situations. So when visiting Colin Rose School, I was proudly depicting what was my topic, and the topic was to be shaped into a stripper, putting calling it a nice way a dancer. Okay. Right. So um even when doing that interview, I mean, the lady I have seen over there was similar to my best friend's friend from work. So we went with my bestie to the town, the city of women lectures, and there were great events organized by them, and you could choose a lot of lectures and just stay over there and learn something, take notes. So during one of these, I have seen my bestie's friend from work, which was pretty much similar to my the woman who interviewed me. So I didn't get the job. So, and that's supposedly this method for adults created by Colin Rose to study English is super secret. Yeah, but. Then I went to an interview in a language school called Moose, and that for me is stands for an animal that's a little bit stupid in my Polish language. When we call somebody a moose, then it means they are, a little bit stupid. So it can be, a funny way to reduce tension, but if you start to associate yourself with being a moose and um, if you start associate your learning capacities as a moose capacity, then probably that's not good. Okay, so the thing is, when I went there, I was sitting and waiting, and I was staring at a very big picture, and it was black and white and yellows. I mean, everything in the background, like there was a car in the city, and everything in the background was black and white, and there was this yellow, very big yellow, uh, either a bus or a car. And somehow, when staring at it, I thought about Great Britain. And when I was staring at it, there was in the queue just one more person with me. And that person had, that was a very much taller person with ginger hair, blue eyes. He was a man, very lean man. And he appeared to be he appeared to be a person who could control his own like emotions, and he appeared to be a calm person, but also a smart person. Uh, and just when I worked in Berlin, my sister's neighbor, my brother's neighbor, looked like precisely like that man. So precisely like that man, like one-to-one identical people. Mm. And also very characteristic people. Um, right. So, I didn't get that job over there. And it turned out that this man, I told him to go before me, because he was there when he came. So he was already waiting. And then it turned out that he was my boss. So I was like, oh, I was a little bit awkward. Yeah. Um, but during the interview, they didn't let me know what was the possible salary. So I should have known that it probably was just an interview, because otherwise they would just give you the information so that you could sit and consider if you want the job or not. But I managed to work with a language school, most in Tarnów, and that well, it, I didn't have to have like meetings with my boss or something. Like we met maybe twice in our life. He had a very characteristic surname, and and what would I like to tell you here? Oh yeah, one of my students, Justina, she just looked like Mawami, from a girl from Mamins. And her mom was very characteristic too, but they were like two totally separate people. Like she was totally different, made totally different impression on me than her mom. And her mom was like this, woman, very, very tall woman with much broader shoulders than her hips. And her daughter was a very, very small, delicate person. I mean, she appeared that way. She really looked like Mawami. I mean, you know, and she would even typically wear her hair like that. So, yeah. Um, I mean, that's not the best. And I have the head here with no neck. And I told you, I was talking to you about neck not so long ago. But she's a very subtle person, and a lot of her skin complexion seems to be like, delicate, and maybe even she would have some freckles, and it's like Mawami. The shape of the forehead is like from Mawami, the little me from Mamins, and the color of the hair is almost exactly the same, very ginger, very orange. And the way they put their hair is like there is not even one hair standing out. So it's very meticulous type of putting their hair, keeping her hair. And her mom, on the other hand, was like, the opposite, because she was very, very small. Her mom was very, very big, and her mom would have black hair, bigger eyes, but also a lot of masculinity in her hair, a lot of, features that we would associate with men. Yeah. I will not grasp it in the drawing, sorry. I would have to draw it yet once again. So, where were we? Oh, with no notes. Okay, yeah, so later on, I came across, when studying graphic and design, the same woman to Mawami, little me. not the same one, but a very, very similar one, studied with me, and she helped me with my homework, for, paid homework, sometimes it was. And when it comes to her mom, I saw her in Jewish Community Center when I was about to enter. And then, well, yeah, I saw someone who resembled Mawa's me, a mom, also like one to one. And then, from the language school, Moose, I had, Shimon, the gypsy, whom actually, I still like having lessons with him. He was the um, a body therapist, physiotherapist. And I also had Joseph, and he was a body therapist too. That's a longer story too. So I also taught a beautician, whose daughter used to be Peppa Pig, and she loved Peppa Pig, and she would go to the bakery and answer the question like, "What croissant do you want?" And she goes like, because she's Peppa. Okay. And you know what? And I had a group also near the elephant. So I used to go near the elephant in Tarnów. And I had a group. I had the group to teach, and I gave them the activity with nuclear bomb. And that was an activity that I have taken from my teacher, Ms. Trzabońska. I'm sorry I haven't asked before, using the activity. So, it was a role play in which you imagine that, there are bombs dropping everywhere, and you have reached the shelter together with, 10 other people, and you have to decide, you have to wait for the decision of the government, based on deciding who's going to stay in the shelter and who's going to leave the shelter, because you might be the only people who will start the human race once again, right? And I was supposed to be from the government as well as my group and other groups, and we are supposed to, make a decision based on short decisions and, limited in time decision. All right. So, I've noticed that it actually does something, that activity, in terms of, a gameplay and having an open discussion, like, like who is going to stay or who should stay, knowing that it's totally irrational situation. But at the same time, everyone was always open to discuss, like, how would you pair these people? How would they, create this new race, like who would become a good match for whom to create this couple, because these were supposed to be the only people, and you had to take into consideration their age, their skills, what's going to be needed. So having an open situation like that is totally, mind challenging and actually keeping you interested. So I never came across anyone who would go like, no, I'm not gonna do this, until this one day with that particular group. But on the other hand, to my today's perspective is a little bit different, because I'm not so sure if such an activity is such a good activity after all, Mm. So, when I was attacked by my student, I was shocked, because my assumptions and my beliefs at that time were like, this is really like good and stimulating for you, for it's stimulating for your brain. It's stimulating to think and match and approach the topic from every possible perspective, and you don't have to like go with the end to with it and decide, okay, so these people are going to stay in the shelter and these not. But you can just be open and discuss about it, who's got what, who brings which quality to the table, like doing as much. And he was like, no, the activity is stupid and I'm not gonna do this activity. And some other time, we talked about success, and he attacked me with the word success. Like, what do you mean by success? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. I'm not here to judge anyone, and it's about what you mean by success, because you're supposed to talk here. That's fine. That's it. I never understood people, overreacting and exploding. But this particular group, in this group, I found my boss quite attractive. And he was a very masculine man. He was a taller man, and his wife. She was a very nice person, but I have to tell you, she was very, very small. I was smaller than he was, and she was like much smaller than I was. And I mean, and she had a few difficult aspects overall on her face. And I never meant to, anyhow offend her, and I don't think I ever did. The woman yelled for me for nothing, and I just stood there stressed. And then I thought, oh my, they're a couple, and I somehow, never openly or explicitly, try to seduce a boss when having the entire group, teaching the boss the entire group, and later on it turned out that I was teaching his wife too, But she yelled at me. And then they stopped coming to classes. They just sent me from day to day a different group. I also had this belief that, when my student yelled at me, then maybe it was because he felt some boulderizations, some censorship, because he had lessons with two of his bosses, and maybe he didn't feel like free to express his opinion. He would be feel like judged, like what is his take on that, and what is his take on that. It gives us, some psychological profile of our employees too. So I was thinking, because I was looking for some rational explanation, but you know but those reactions just didn't make any sense. And just with time, when I started to see how occultism works and what is the work of extrasensory perception and what is possible, then I started to think that, maybe somebody could, see in my Akashic records how I perceived them. And I never meant to be mean to any woman with regard to their appearance. Because I think and I believe I was ugly too. And I know what it means. And people would tell me explicitly, they would suggest explicitly that I would never get married or something. So, well, so I would never do that to other woman, come on. Because it is pathetic. But if I look at someone and if I think something to myself, and then that someone, yells at me when I know I was prepared, I know I wanted to deliver for them the best quality, then they had no right to yell at me like that. Okay. So from day to day, I just came prepared for the lesson, and then I received a new group, and they asked me to do presentations with them, and I was like, you know what, I'm sorry, but this is a different requirement, and I signed up for a general English. Yeah. Okay. And I believe there is one more thing, yeah, like when people discover in your Akashic records, like what you will do, they try to change it with their reactions. Like Miss Bohanek, I brought her the book, which was white and pink, and she yelled at me for nothing, for just showing that I was, trying to read something on my own at home. That's probably not a big deal, just because there were mistakes in the books. Like in many other books, there are mistakes too. Or, I was sitting with my sister and her boss, and I showed them Victoria Modesta and a very good dark dance. It's called dark dance, but the woman who didn't have a leg, made herself look like a spider. And it was a very short clip and very strong, but showing you precisely that what was her weakness was depicted as her, strong thing, because this everyday struggle when you don't have a leg became this, powerful association with Victoria Modesta, with the singer. So showing that even without a leg, the woman just looks intriguing. So I played that video clip to to two people, And he just basically stood up and left the room, and she also walked away and started to wash the dishes. So I associate some of these, like, checking what is going to happen in your Akashic records and trying to give you different reception. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So, if you want to get a free PDF of my book Piglet, drop me a line at elkinga788@gmail.com. Piglet is still for free till the 28th of, let me see, July, 28th of July. And if you want to check out my course, Amelia, then click the link below. It's a course about identities of pedophiles, lesbians, gays, and transvestites. So you'll find all the info in the description of this film on my website, on my Instagram and Facebook account. And if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe.